I just want to say I'm so happy that you're here. My name is Frances Kweller. This meeting will be recorded, so I'm already getting a few requests for recording. We haven't even started. Okay, so if you could please just bear with me, but we do record and we want to give everyone access and opportunity to learn from these webinars. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who's here right now for making time because knowledge is power. And truth be told, I did not have any of this knowledge when I was applying to college, and I was told, no, don't apply high, don't apply to so many schools, don't apply, don't apply. So every time I would ask how to apply, the response was, this is over 25 years ago, the response for me was, don't do it and don't apply and why do you have to do it? And I'm sure Milena can relate. I was told no so many times and it hurt me so much because especially as a young woman and my parents were immigrants, it was so hard. So this is my payback, everyone. I am going to show you how. We are going to learn the path. This is the magical path of a student who came from an immigrant family where English is not the native language, it's not the primary language spoken at home, full-time Spanish is, right? I mean, this is someone who navigated from the public school system up the public school system ladder from it was Booker T, correct? Booker T. Which
Yes.
elementary? Remind me, please.
PS 84, Lillian Weber.
So from PS 84 Public to Booker T, and again, this is a New York City public school. And from there, to take the Hunter exam and to be honest, to not get into Hunter and to say, look, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to continue with Kweller Prep. I'm going to continue SHSAT, even though we didn't get you into Hunter. Do you believe this? You stayed with us. So thank you. So I just want to remind you, this is someone who went to Bronx High School of Science, navigated, I mean, and you were not surrounded outside of Kweller, of course, as support. You were not surrounded by people who knew the system, right? Who knew how to apply. So we are really having a special moment right now. We are going to begin a webinar where a student is leading the webinar who had a first-hand experience. And I think it's safe to say, do you think you heard 1,000 no's or 1,200 or 1,500? I mean, how many times did you hear no and then it all became a yes?
I probably heard a million no's. And
I know. So did I, everyone. So this is my payback webinar. This is the webinar where we tell you that you can do it, okay? And I just want to let you know that it gives me great pleasure to say that I've had so much fun with Milena's college acceptances because we were on TV and we were in Channel 7 and CBS, and it was a lot of fun. Didn't we have the best time? We got dressed up. So I just want to tell you, this has been such a great journey, and I'm honored to know you so many years. And thank you so much for passing the torch because not everyone wants to do that either. Many are very secretive and very quiet and they're very hush hush and they don't want to share. And especially when someone's looking to apply to these schools and everything is so secret, secret, secret. So I really want to just say thank you. With that being said, a student who Milena tutored Okay, sorry, Milena. You can go. Go right ahead.
okay. Hey, everyone.
Wait. So you do hear me or you don't?
Oh, now I can hear you.
It's an echo, right?
I think there was previously, but
Okay, everyone, even if there's an echo, we'll hear it twice. Ready? Milena's student, who she personally worked with, and this is while she's at Harvard, just got into Georgetown University. I'm so happy. So we're going to start the webinar with great energy. Just received a college acceptance. Okay, so I'm going to go on mute and I want to congratulate you wholeheartedly. I'm so happy for you. And in honor of your good news, I just want to share that you brought me a lot of joy. So I just want to share that with you. Thank you so much. And that's not an echo. I'm going to put myself on mute now. Bye.
thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Milena, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. Thank you for coming. I love doing these webinars. I love sharing this knowledge because, believe it or not, a year ago, 2 years ago, I was in your position and I know how daunting this whole college application process can be. So I'm so happy to be here to share my knowledge and hopefully make the process easier for you guys. So I'm going to share my screen. And today we are going to talk about my journey applying and being accepted to all 8 Ivy Leagues and 20 other colleges. And
Bravo! Da, 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 da.
And we are going to have time at the end for questions. So if you have them, save them for the end. So first, just sort of an agenda for today. I'm going to be introducing myself, sort of giving an overview of what the junior and senior year of your high school should look like as you're preparing for the college application process. And then I have more general tips at the end. So a little about myself. Right now, I'm a freshman at Harvard University, which is incredible. I can't believe I can even say that. But for high school, I went to Bronx Science. And for middle school, I went to Booker T. So I've been in the New York City public school system since I was born. I went to PS 84, like I mentioned earlier. My family is from Argentina, and my family, we're tango dancers, which is an important part of my life, and it became an important part of my college applications, which is why I'm mentioning it now. I'm a longtime Kweller Prep student. I've been at Kweller since the 6th grade for the Hunter test. And in terms of scores, this is a brief overview because we can go into more depth later throughout the presentation, but I got a 1560 on my SAT, and I had a GPA of 97. Again, we're going to go more into depth of my extracurriculars, but the main overview is that I was a captain of the Bronx Science speech and debate team, which was the #1 ranked speech and debate team in the country. Yay, go Bronx Science. I founded the gender equity board at my school, and I was a tutor throughout high school. And I was accepted to 28 colleges, including all 8 Ivy Leagues. So, like I mentioned, I'm going to be doing sort of a rough roadmap of what your junior and senior year should look like as you're preparing to apply to colleges and as you start applying to them. So, in your junior year, the thing that you should be thinking about the most are the SAT, your recommendation letters, and brainstorming Common App personal statement ideas. In terms of your recommendation letters, you're going to be submitting 2 recommendations from teachers in your junior year. So what that means is that during your junior year, you need to be making sure you're fostering good relationships with your teachers. So what that means is making sure to go to their office hours, making sure you're participating in class, and making sure your teachers know who you are, because the more they know about you, the more they can write about in that recommendation letter. And the more that they can talk about, the better. It's because colleges are going to be using those recommendations letters to see how you are as a student within the classroom. So, like I mentioned, going to their office hours, emailing for help, participating in class, and overall just being a positive presence in class. And you want to make sure you're asking with enough time so they have enough time to write that recommendation letter. So I recommend to ask in the spring of your junior year so that they can have the whole summer to write them. Because junior year teachers, they're going to be writing a lot, so you don't want to be asking them last minute. In terms of the SAT, you want to start studying. Some people take the SAT in their junior year. I took the SAT June of my junior year, so immediately after I finished the year. I highly, highly recommend the Kweller Prep course for studying for the SAT because the SAT is such a daunting test that it's not something that you can do by yourself. As the Kweller Prep has great course textbooks that you can study from, and the courses that Kweller Prep offer are going to help you throughout this process. And lastly, brainstorming common application personal statement ideas. So in terms of the college application process, I think the aspect that gets the most attention, and rightfully so, is your personal statement, the college app essay that you're going to be writing. But in actuality, you're going to be writing a lot more, but we'll get into that later. But this is the most important one you're going to write. This is an essay that's going to be sent to almost all, if not all, of the schools you're going to be applying to. And it's important that you give it enough thought because You don't want to be a week before applications are due and you have no idea what you want to write about. That's something that cannot happen. You need to be thinking about this, I would say, a year in advance, in your junior year. And so for me, what this looks like is, having it on the back burner in your mind, having ideas that maybe you can write about. And for me, that has always been my experience with tango. I think even since middle school, I kind of knew that this is what I wanted to talk about in my Common App essay. I didn't know how, I didn't know exactly what I was going to be writing within the essay, but for me, I knew it was going to be about tango because my parents are tango dancers. I was raised in the tango community. I was named after a tango, and so it's a big part of my life. So it's just something that's on the back burner, which I recommend that if you haven't already, if you're a junior, to start thinking about. Another big thing that you can do is read examples. And I don't think you can do this, I think you must. There are so many examples online of successful Common App personal statements that you can read because there is a sort of format, or not format, but aspects of the essay that make it successful that you need to be familiar with so that you can create it within your own essay. And, I knew that I was going to be writing about tango, but it's good to have backup options as well, because you might get to the day you start writing your essay and you realize this is actually not what I want to write about. So it's good to have multiple options just on the back burner of your brain. And then the summer before your senior year, this is when you want to finish your personal statement. So I started writing my personal statement at the end of my junior year and finished it by the summer. And it can seem daunting. So as the earlier you start writing it, the better. And, you might write one draft and think you don't like this draft, but it's okay because you're going to have multiple. I personally had 7 drafts of my personal statement. So it's important that you give yourself enough time to, make these changes, go through all the drafts that you need. Another big aspect of this is asking for feedback. There's so many resources available to you, whether it's Kweller Prep, whether it's your guidance counselor at school, whether it's your friends, whether it's your English teacher. There's a lot of people that you can ask to read your essays and have them give you feedback. And it's important that you ask a lot of people because different people are going to catch different things. And it's not just about, small errors, like maybe it's a typo or things like that. It's important that you get these essays 100% right, which is why you have to have a lot of eyes looking at them. And you also want to consider what perspective the person giving you feedback is coming from, because if you're asking a bunch of your friends to read your essays, it's important that you realize that the admissions officers that are reading your essays and deciding whether you get into that school aren't other 16, 17-year-olds. So it's important that you ask people, like a guidance counselor or a teacher, because they're going to be having that mindset that someone who isn't a high school student will have. Another big thing is trusting your gut. At the end of the day, it's your application. And the point of these essays is for the school to get to know you. So what you want to write and what you want to express in your essays is ultimately what's going to be best for you. So yes, you want to get a lot of feedback from people, but it's also about filtering the feedback and recognizing what's do you value, then you want to represent in your essay. One thing that I did a lot, it was free writes for ideas. Sometimes I didn't know what I was going to write for some of the essays. So sometimes you just need to sit down and start writing, and don't stop writing until you have something that you might use, even if it's just a sentence, and that one sentence gives you an idea for a whole new essay. Sometimes it's just sitting down, having a blank piece of paper, and jotting down anything that comes to your mind. Also, having a schedule, especially for the personal statement. This is not an essay you can write in a week. This is not an essay that you're going to turn into your English teacher for a grade. This is an essay that's very important and can very much determine what your future is going to look like. So it's important. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you start this with time. it shouldn't be your senior year in the fall and you haven't started your essay. You guys have the time now to plan ahead and to plan writing this essay with time. Also, that was a lot about the personal statement. We'll get a bit more specific in terms of aspects and tips I have later. But in terms of the summer before your senior year, this is also a great opportunity to visit schools. I know a lot of people who travel around the country to see different schools. I know Kweller Prep does a lot of visiting schools. So there's a lot of resources, even if it's just within the city. I know I went to with my mom, I visited Hunter, I visited Columbia, I visited Barnard. There's a lot of options even within the city that you can go visit because, you know, visiting the school is going to help you determine whether you actually see yourself attending. You know, maybe you visit a school like Barnard, and realize a small school isn't for me. So that really helps you narrow it down, and something I highly recommend. Also, the summer before your senior year, you want to finalize your college list. So after you visit your schools, after you do all your research, and this is something that Kweller Prep also helps with, is finalizing and narrowing down your college list. Because you only want to be applying to schools that you are genuinely interested in attending, so that you can maximize your time and be efficient with your applications. So more about the Common App personal statement, which is the essay I was talking about earlier. The Common App has 7 prompts, and you can see them here. But the way I really like to think about this Common App personal statement is as if it were unprompted. And even the last prompt here, it says, share an essay on any topic of your choice. But truly, the point of the personal statement is for the colleges to get to know you. What's the most important thing about you that colleges have to know that will want them to accept, will want them to want you at their school? So there's 7 prompts, but they essentially all have to do with your life experiences thus far and what's shaped you as a person. And like I mentioned earlier, I like to think of the essay as unprompted. So write about anything that you think is important to highlight in your college applications, because this is the essay that almost all, if not all of the colleges you're going to be applying to is going to read. And so you want to write what you want every school that you're applying to know about you. And I think the 3 most important things about the personal statement for now, first, having an engaging hook. Throughout the whole application process, you want to be thinking from the perspective of an admissions officer. The admissions officers are going to be reading thousands and thousands of essays, thousands and thousands of personal statements. And so if they're bored by the first sentence, they're already not having that right mindset when reading that essay. So you want to keep them engaged and hooked from the very first sentence. And I've included some examples of some hooks, I think, in the next slide that we can take a look at. Also, for the personal statement, some advice that I received and I think is very helpful that I want to share with you guys is that you want to imagine from the perspective of the admissions officer, what are 3 adjectives that they're going to take away from this essay about you? Do you want them to think that you're determined, that you're persistent, that you're disciplined? 3 adjectives that describe who you are in a positive light that will make them want to have you at their campus. So that's something that you should be thinking about as you're writing this essay. And lastly, making sure this essay is about you. There are some times when students have a really cool background, have an incredible family history, and they want to write about this incredible thing that their family comes from. But you have to make sure that when you're writing about that, that you're writing about how that reflects on you and what that means about you. Does this family experience show that you are determined? Or does it show that your father or your grandfather's experience is determined? Because you don't want them to finish your essay and want to accept your family member and not you. So always have it highlight you. You are the center of attention. This is your personal statement. That's why it's called personal, because it's about you. So these are 3 personal statement hook examples. These I found online, and you can find many, many examples of full personal statements online, and I highly recommend, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day, reading these essays, seeing what essays got students into great schools, because you're going to have to write these essays. But for the first one, my laptop is like a passport. It is plastered with stickers all over the outside, inside, and bottom. Each sticker is a stamp representing a place I've been, a passion I've pursued, or a community I've belonged to. So the thing that I like to highlight is, the short initial sentence that kind of catches the reader off of guard. This is the kind of thing that you want to embody. This isn't an essay you're turning in for an English class. You're not answering a specific prompt. So you want to have them hooked from the very first sentence. Okay, continuing with the schedule programming for your senior year. For the summer before your senior year, you want to finish the common application. So the common app is the most common way to apply to colleges. Most colleges will have you just submit your application through the common app. And there's 7 sections that you have to fill out. And most of them are just filling in basic information about yourself. So the profile, that's going to be your name, your address, what school you go to, things like that. Family, your family history, where your family's from, what colleges they went to, if they went to college. Education, that's more about your school, your grades, awards that you have, and future plans for what you want to study. Testing, which is where you put your SAT and your AP scores, or your ACT if that's what you took. And then the activities and the writing section are the ones that you're going to need to spend more time on. The writing section is where you're going to paste in your personal statement. And the activities, you have to paste in all of your extracurriculars and how many hours you did each one for, and have a general description for each one. And this is something that people tend to overlook, but it's really important. And when I'm tutoring a student, this is something that we spend a lot of time crafting because it's so important that you get it right. And then some schools ask for your courses and your grades, so you put in each course that you've taken throughout high school and what you got in that class. Okay. For testing, these were the scores that I got. For the SAT, I got a 1560, a 1770 in writing, and a 1790 in math. And I want to highlight my AP scores because I think it's truly representative of what this whole application process is like. I got 2 5s, 2 4s, a 3, and a 2. You don't have to submit all of your AP test scores. I didn't submit my 3 and my 2, and I wanted to include this because I want it to be fully transparent. And I don't want you to feel like if you score badly on one test, whether that be an AP or a test in a class, it's not the end of the world. And I'm saying this right now from my dorm in Harvard. Getting a bad test score isn't the end of the world, and you're going to push through and persevere. So it's about being strategic with what you want to submit and what you don't want to. I submitted my 4s and 5s, and that's what I recommend you do. And you don't have to disclose the scores that you don't want to send. So that's something I recommend. In terms of the activities, things to keep in mind is that there are 10 slots. You can't put more than 10 activities on the common application. And I mention this because I had a lot of friends in high school who were constantly stressed out, busy all the time, every hour of their day booked, because they were doing 20 different clubs and extracurriculars. And then it got to the time of filling out the common app, and there wasn't even space to put half of their extracurriculars that they spent all of their time on. So, if we want to be strategic, spend your time on things that you can actually mention, and don't stretch yourself too thin. If you want to commit yourself to 10 things, that's great. That also sounds like a lot. If you don't have to fill up the 10 slots. If you're committed to less things, but you put 100% of yourself in it, that's also great. This is also something that's so important, which is why I spend a lot of time with the students I tutor on this. When you include your activities, you have to write a description. And in your description, you want to include a lot of action verbs. You also want to include a lot of numbers. So what this might look like is like spearheaded fundraising program that raised $10,000. So spearheaded is your action verb, and then your numbers, including how many members you recruited, how much money was raised. Numbers are good to show that there were tangible impacts to what you were doing in that extracurricular. Also, they ask for the numbers of hours that you commit yourself to that activity. And something that's so important is that, first of all, that they are accurate, and also that they're a reasonable amount of hours. Because sometimes you might spend more hours on one club this 1 week and the next week not so much, but it's important that you get an accurate and reasonable amount of hours, because there are schools that reach out to the extracurricular organizations and ask, hey, can you confirm that this student did in fact do this program for 4 hours a week for 2 years? So it's important that that's consistent with what you're going to reflect on your application. Also, something that I didn't know until I was filling out the application is that you can list family responsibilities as one of your extracurriculars. And, like Ms. Kweller mentioned, I'm a daughter of immigrants. My family speaks Spanish. So a lot of my time was spent translating things for them. Being an overall facilitator, I would go to all of my parent-teacher conferences and translate for my teachers. So this is something that I wanted to reflect in my application. And as for my 10 extracurriculars, I've listed them here. Like I mentioned earlier, I founded the Gender Equity Board at Bronx Science. I was a captain of the speech and debate team at Bronx Science. I was head of outreach of a student-led nonprofit that did tutoring for Spanish-speaking students. And I did dance for all of my life. My parents are tango dancers. I did family responsibilities, and you can look through the rest. I did a lot of volunteering, was involved in a lot of cultural clubs at my school, and was part of the research Regeneron track at Bronx Science. Okay. Applying early. So this is something that can be confusing, especially if you don't have a lot of support throughout the college application process, which is why I highly recommend Kweller, because you can get that support from here. But what applying early means is that you'll apply by November, and mid-December, the school will let you know whether you got in, deferred, or were accepted. I personally applied to Princeton restricted early action, and I was deferred, which means that I wasn't rejected, but I wasn't accepted, but they were going to continue evaluating my application with the regular admissions cycle, which happens later. And so if this happens to you, what you want to do is write a letter of continued interest, which is essentially just a one-page letter affirming that you are passionate about the school, that you are interested in attending, and giving them sort of updates on what you have been up to since you've submitted your application. So, for example, in my letter of continued interest, I mentioned that I had qualified to the Tournament of Champions in speech and debate, and that the Gender Equity Board that I founded was collaborating with other schools throughout the city. And so those are sort of achievements that you want to highlight. And again, emphasizing that this is a school that you're interested, and that asking that they please consider your application. And make sure that you love the school that you're applying early to, because for most schools, applying early means that it's binding. What that means is that if you get in, you have to go to that school. So you want to make sure that the school you're essentially signing yourself off to is a school that you are super enthusiastic about, which is why I recommend visiting the school, and Kweller does tours, talking to current students, whether that be students from your high school that are at that school, tutors at Kweller who go to that school, or finding students through other means. But whether it's at a tour and stopping a kid and asking, hey, do you have a moment to answer some questions? I'm really interested in applying to this school. Also, researching online is so important. One thing I recommend is reading the student newspapers. So at Harvard here, the student newspaper is called The Crimson, but every school has a student newspaper that you can read to see from the perspective of the students themselves what studying there is like. Also, something very important that you should keep track of is making sure to apply to public schools early because they're not binding, and you can still apply early to a private school and apply to public schools as well. So in terms of the SUNYs, I personally applied to Stony Brook, Binghamton, and UAlbany. And for CUNYs, I applied to Macaulay Honors at Hunter, Baruch, and City College. And I also applied to the University of Michigan early. So, it's a lot of things to keep track of, but this is why, Kweller is here to help support you through all of this. So I mentioned earlier that there's more than just one essay that you have to write. In addition to the personal statement, which will be going to most of the schools you apply to, each school or most schools will ask you to write specific essays for that school, which we call supplemental essays. And these essays can range from 3 words to 650 words. But in my experience, most of them are around 200 to 300 words. I personally ended up writing 70 supplemental essays, which sounds like a lot, which is why it's important that you start early. And some schools, they can ask for 1 supplemental essay. Some schools, I think, might end up asking for 9. So it's important that you keep track of all of this, and I'll show you my spreadsheet that I created that I can help, students create. You can also create a template of your own to help keep track of all of this because it's a lot of information. And what the goal with these supplemental essays is to show the admissions officers why you belong there. Show them that you've done the research about the school, and show them who you are and what you would bring to that school community. So a lot of the times the schools will ask, why do you want to study at this university? Or what specifically draws you to this university? And that's where you want to show them that you've done the research, that you know that this is the school for you, and you know not only that the school is great, and not only that you're great, but that specifically you plus that school is the best match that there can be. You want to show them that your passions, your interests, and your skills are perfectly fit for what that school offers and what the school community is like. So it's very important that the supplemental essays you also get right. And there can be conflicting messages. Some people say that the schools value the supplemental essays more than the personal statement, or some might say that the personal statement is more important. But at the end of the day, it's important that you, as the applicant, are prioritizing every aspect of the application, including the supplemental essays. And one thing about these essays is a lot of the schools can have similar prompts. So it might be very tempting to just copy and paste the same essay and send it out to a bunch of different schools. But really, what you want to show is that you belong at that specific school that you're writing that essay for, which is why I recommend that every supplemental essay be unique. You can be writing about the same topics. If you're interested in studying biology because you want to be a doctor, that's something that's going to be similar throughout all of your essays. But you want to show why studying biology at Cornell, if that's what your essay you're writing about, is specific. You want to mention Cornell specific programs, extracurricular activities that you would become a part of. So it really can't be the same essay that you're sending out again and again because it has to be unique to the school that you're applying to.
I'm going to interrupt the webinar because I have big news, Milena. A student who you personally worked with got into Georgetown. I told you this at the beginning. The student just got into Columbia University as well. So I'm very happy to tell you that at 18 years old, you can now put that under your belt, that someone who you personally helped is heading off to the Ivy Leagues. So that is quite the accomplishment at your age. So were the TV shows and the media. It was a lot of fun. And so is this webinar. You're doing a great job leading this webinar. I'm so proud of you. But I do want to share everyone that this advice really works. Okay, so go right ahead.
Thank you. And this is a celebration for all of Kweller. Wait, that's incredible. But So this is the spreadsheet that I used, or a screenshot of my spreadsheet to keep track of the supplemental essays. And this is just a part of it. It goes on for 70 supplemental essays. But to keep track of things, I had the school, what the essay was asking for, because a lot of the times you can simplify the prompt into, this is a diversity essay because it's asking how have your experiences led you to who you are today and how will that contribute. So you have to think in the mindset of the admissions officer. What do they want to know when they're asking this question? And in those cases, it's they want to build a diverse class of students. So you want to show them how you can contribute to that. So here I have what they're asking in the prompt, the topic that I'm going to talk about, because I don't want to repeat the topics um, within the same school. So if I write about, my heritage as a Hispanic student in one essay to Harvard, I don't want to write about the same thing in another essay. So this is something that you really need to keep track about because it all really matters. And also, I have my chart at the end with what percentage of my supplemental essays I had done. And, by the end, I had 68. So it's incredible right now to be sitting on the other side of it, which is why I'm helping you guys, because I remember how daunting it can be. Okay. So once you submit your applications, you're going to be reached out to by the schools to have interviews with them. And this personally for me was the most stressful part. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't be. So here are some tips that I have for you. Practice. Practice is one of the best things you can do in terms of these interviews. And there's so many opportunities for you to do so. You can practice with your friends, your family members, a teacher, and these might be good people to start out with, practicing with a friend. But once you get closer to the day of your actual interview, you want to practice with people that you might not know as well or that you might not know at all, because ultimately you're going to be interviewed by somebody you have never met before. So you want to be able to replicate that scenario. So some people that I recommend is guidance counselors who aren't yours, teachers that you never had, maybe the teacher of your friend or a friend's parent. You know, these people who, you can reach out to, hey, can I do a mock interview with you? And they can help you out. Something that I recommend for preparing in advance is what I call like the elevator pitch for yourself, and which is what you're going to start off your interview with. Because I think all of my interviews started with the person asking me, tell me a little bit about yourself. So you want to have something prepared, and I like to keep it at 30 seconds that you can just repeat to your person. So you're starting off on a strong note. Some things I like to include your name, what school you go to, where you're from, briefly mention your top extracurriculars, how you spend your time, and then lastly, what you plan to study. So, an example, hi, my name is Milena. I went to Bronx Science. I'm from New York City, Washington Heights. I am passionate about educational equity and I want to study political science. Something like that. You might go into more in depth about your extracurriculars, but starting off on the strong foot, something you're confident saying so that you can start the interview off great. Also, something that's so important that a lot of people forget is that once you finish your interview, you want to be respectful to the interviewer. They are taking up a lot of their time with these interviews, and afterwards, they have to write um, essentially an essay for the admissions officers summarizing the interview, how it went, what you guys talked about. And as I've spoken to people who have conducted interviews for Harvard, and this is one of the most tedious parts of the job as the interviewer. And so you want to thank them for spending that time, with spending their time helping you out throughout your process applying. So send them an email, thank them, because truly they're only there to advocate for you to the admissions committee officer, whoever it is that they're relaying the information to. So please don't forget to send them a thank you email after, I would say, the night of your interview after you've had it. And then these are more general tips. Be organized. Hopefully, I've emphasized this enough, but if not, I'll re-emphasize it now. Use spreadsheets, keep things organized, tabulated, because you don't want to lose track. Because I think, as I've mentioned, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things to remember, a lot of things to keep track of. So if you don't have a centralized location where you keep track of all of this information, you might forget some things, you might lose track. And it's important that you stay on top of this because it's arguably the most important thing that you'll be doing in your junior and senior year. So I personally use Google spreadsheets to organize all of my things. I showed you guys a screenshot. I'll have another one of another spreadsheet I had with my students that I tutor. I help craft their spreadsheets. And it can be different for every person because different people might value different things. I like to have all the information as much as I can on my spreadsheet, but it depends on the person. So you want to spend time crafting a spreadsheet that's going to be useful for you. If it's not a spreadsheet, it might be a Google document. However you want to keep track of your information, it doesn't really matter how, as long as you're keeping track of it. I personally created a new Gmail account to have all of my college information in one place because you don't want to lose an email. You don't want to miss track important information. So I created a new Gmail. When you're going to these college open houses, I know a lot of high schools host them, or when you go visit a college, sometimes they ask you to write down your email so you can receive like newsletters from that school or updates. And you're going to be getting a lot of emails about the college application process. So I highly recommend creating a new email because it's going to be more centralized and more organized that way. This is something that I learned actually from a TikTok, but in the Common Application Education section, under Future Plans, there's a whole lot of options for what you want to study, and things like biology, or becoming a doctor, studying law, studying political science, things like that. But at the very end, there's an option for other, which opens up a little tab on the Common Application for you to insert your career interest. And I think this is something that we should be taking advantage of. What I inserted instead is I want to implement policy changes to improve public education on a macro level. So that's something that's very specific to that I want to do, and something that I wouldn't have been able to put if I had just selected I want to study public policy or education or political science. So, a tip for you guys if you want to do it. If not, that's okay too. Again, I want to re-emphasize the personal statement. You want to start off with a strong hook because you want to keep the admissions officers engaged from the very first second that they're looking at your application. And lastly, and one of the most important parts, I think, is that your application as a whole should be telling a story, a narrative, and you want it to be consistent. So personally for me, I wanted to emphasize how much I care about educational equity. And so that's an aspect that showed up throughout my whole application. It was in my extracurriculars. It was in my career interest. It was in my essays. And it was something that I had spoken to my teachers about. And hopefully that's something that they mentioned in their recommendation letters. It wants to be a cohesive story. So the things that are important that you want to highlight should pop up throughout the different parts of the application. Okay, this is the example of my spreadsheet that I had for keeping track of my applications. And I know it can be daunting, but I personally prefer to have this all in one centralized location. Here I just had the school's names, the number of supplements. I hyperlinked my documents with my supplemental essays for that school.
Oh my God, what are we looking at? Let's take a photo, everybody. Sorry, Milena, we're stealing your stuff. All right. Oh my goodness, she's color coded. All right, you do this though. When you work with students, you do this with them. And Milena also knows how to tutor for the SHSAT. Just please be ready. Milena has very limited availability, so please, everyone, keep in mind, as a tutor, she's available for SHSAT and color-coded college application systems. Whoa, back on mute.
But yes, like Ms. Queller was saying, this is a process that starts way beyond when your applications start. You know, the skills to write this essay, I think I actually started developing when I was in the Kweller Prep course for the Hunter test, because we had to write an essay for that exam. So this is something that has been on the back burner, skills that you want to develop as early as possible. As for the spreadsheet, yes, I know it can look daunting. I personally love spreadsheets, so it doesn't look that daunting for me, but it just gives you an idea of everything you want to keep track of. You want to keep track of what major you're applying to for each school because you want to talk about it in your interview. So different schools offer different specific majors. So you want to keep track of what specifically that school offers and what specifically you applied to. Each school, once you submit your application, is going to send you a portal, which is essentially just a personalized website where you can see all your application materials and where eventually you'll see your decision on decision day. So you want to be able to keep track of your passwords. You have to create a new password for each portal. So having a place where that is all centralized, having the link to the portal, which I have here for mine. Keeping track of anything unique that some schools might ask you for. So for example, Princeton asks you to submit a graded paper from a class. I submitted a paper I had written for my APUSH class, along with my feedback that I received from my teacher. Brown asks you to submit a video instead of doing an interview. So that's something you want to keep track of. Dartmouth asks you for a peer recommendation. So what that means is you have to send Dartmouth an email of a peer that you have, whether that be a friend at school, somebody you play a sport with, somebody, a peer. It has to be a student, and they're going to have to write a recommendation. Excuse me.
I started choking too when I saw this. Oh my God, what am I looking at? Oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. This spreadsheet alone, I need water. Whew.
Yeah, so they're oh my God.
While Milena is out of air, I just want to share with all of you that someone she works with just got into Columbia University. Isn't that amazing? I'm very excited to share that with all of you. Okay, and we'll keep that in mind. I also really, really want to share that this entire experience and webinar brings me so much joy and happiness. Oddly, while Milena's choking on water, but I do want to share how much joy this brings me because these are very special moments, and especially as many of you know, Kweller Prep is a woman-owned business, and to uplift and to bring someone else up and it's just a really cool experience. And for many of you who are first generation and second gen, and I mean, my parents had like thick accents at I was never like, I couldn't go to them for this type of support, even though I had amazing emotional support. I still do. They babysit my three kids all the time for free and they have patience with them. So I have this amazing support system, but my immigrant parents with accents, I mean, they weren't they couldn't help. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. So I was always looking for help, and this is definitely the help that I would have wanted back then. All right. Oh my God, I can't even look at this anymore. Yikes. Okay, back on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to mention that, you know, these are the things that you want to keep track of because different schools ask for different things. And also at the end, I just kept track of my decision results. Okay, moving on. So I cannot stress enough how highly I recommend Kweller Prep. I've been with Kweller since the 6th grade. And like I mentioned, The skills that I learned in the Hunter Prep course when I was 11 years old ended up helping me out when I was applying to colleges when I was 17, which might sound crazy. 5 years later, I was using these skills, but that's how important having a support system like Queller, being part of a community that can give you the tips, can be there for you, help you develop those skills. I cannot stress how important that is. I didn't end up getting into Hunter, but thankfully I stayed with Queller. I trusted. I got into Bronx Science, which, I would not trade for the world. I think everything happens for a reason. I think I belonged at Bronx Science. I think part of it is why I'm here today. So, trusting the process. Again, uh, so I did Kweller Prep for the SHSAT program, which is how I got into Bronx Science, which, I'm eternally grateful for. And I did Kweller Prep again for the PSAT and starting that SAT prep early, which is what I recommend. Starting everything early with time so that you don't get to the day of your test or the day that an application is due and you're out of time. And you can't submit your best application because there's just no time, which, isn't really an excuse because we're here right now, at least a full year ahead before, you know, things are due, or half a year. So you have the time now, and I say it's now that you can use that time to make the most of it. And like, yes, I
In
mentioned
the
the
in the chat box, there are a bunch of questions. So I mean, I'm so happy that we are going through the webinar. Let's go through a few questions. I don't know if you can do all of this, but the question is, can you share your entire course selection and your blood type, and your kidney? Do you have kidneys? No, I'm kidding. Can you share your entire course selection? No, that's so much. Can you give us like the courses that you think are the most important that helped? We can go off share screen, right? Is that okay?
yes.
So let's modify the question because it's very intense. Can you please share what are like the big courses that you think helped shape you?
Okay. I want to start this off by saying it's not the individual courses that, make or break an application. I think what's most important is apply or is taking courses that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, and that reflect what you're going to be studying when you're at college. I think this applies mostly in your senior year. At least at Bronx Science, your senior year is the first year where you could really like branch out and choose specific courses that you want to take, and you don't have to take courses that you don't want to. But that might be different at different schools. So if you have the option to take different courses, take the courses that reflect what you're going to study. So, for example, I knew I was going to be applying as a political science or classics major in college. So I took two social studies classes my senior year. I took AP Comparative Government and AP Econ, which is a combination of AP Microeconomics and AP Macroeconomics. So, demonstrating to the schools that you're genuinely passionate about the things that you claim that you're going to be studying about in college because you're studying them now. Some shout outs. I was really passionate about physics, so I took AP Physics 1 my junior year, and then my senior year, Bronx Science offers Intro to Modern Physics, which was very impactful. I loved it. But it's also showing to the schools, yes, I might be passionate about political science, but I'm also passionate about physics. So there's no specific course that you can take. Um, it's about the courses that reflect who you are, what you're interested in, and that you're going to have a good time.
And I also want to add my own experience. So, as many of you know, I am also a lawyer. And would you believe I'm the first lawyer in my family? And I run a tutoring center, which I think threw everyone off, but we help people become lawyers. And we actually might be helping Milena become a lawyer. Oh, a JD MBA by 25. I'll be so proud. With that being said, Tutoring. With that being said, I participated in mock trial, model UN, speech and debate. I took AP English for 2 years, AP US, AP Government, AP Language, things that I knew would help a lot with public speaking. I participated in, I wrote for the school newspaper regularly, and I served as captain of the mock trial team many, many years ago. So I'm just telling you, I wasn't just involved, like I was really involved. I even remember one time I filled in for a witness, and here I am years later passing the New York State bar exam and becoming the first attorney, and running the learning center was, as I said, it's that payback moment where I get to show everyone the path. So and you get to show everyone the path. So we have a team effort taking place right now. But again, the stuff I did when I was 15 stayed with me, right? So that's so important right now. So keep that in mind. This will stay with you. So next question. Do colleges frown upon taking the SAT too many times? Is there a recommended limit?
I think the limit that gets thrown around is 3 times, but I think that's because some schools ask you to, if you've taken it more than 3 times, ask you to list that fact. But that's something I haven't encountered with, and I haven't seen that on any of the applications that I did. But I would recommend, I personally took the SAT twice. I got a 1450 my first time, and then I got a 1560. So if you've taken it once and you're not happy with the score you've gotten, I would recommend spending more time studying and preparing and taking practice exams. If you're taking practice exams and you're still not getting the score that you would like to receive on the SAT, I would say perhaps postpone taking the actual test so that you can prepare more and start seeing the results that you would want to see when you take the test.
And I want to commend you and compliment you. Milena's journey to a 1500 SAT started in the fifth grade, Hunter Prep. And then she continued because Hunter was reading math essay above an advanced grade level. Then Milena continued to do SHSAT prep for a year. So again, more reading, more math, more above grade level. And then she took honors math and English classes. So this was a journey. This doesn't happen after a week or two. And quite frankly, neither does public speaking. The reason why you're so polished is you took Model UN, you took, I mean, can you quickly tell us what have you done? I mean, you're just very polished when you communicate. How, why, what class did you take? Keep in mind, everyone, the in Milena's family, this is not a household that speaks English every day. So where is this coming from? Where is this confidence from the classes you took in high school? Which classes? What did you take in high school that made you speak like this in such a large audience?
Well, doing sort of a throwback, in middle school, I did Model UN at Booker T. And in high school, I did speech and debate, like I mentioned, but specifically speech. I was captain of the speech sub squad of the whole team. And I specifically did oral interpretation and program oral interpretation. So every weekend I was going to tournaments and I was competing with speeches. Now at Harvard, I'm in mock trial, and we actually qualify to nationals, which is incredible. And so these are skills that you cultivate over time. In terms of classes, I don't think I had a specific class where I was cultivating my, speaking skills. I think it's more throughout every class, making sure you participate, when you raise a hand, articulating your question. That's something that you get practice the more you do it, or giving a class presentation, regardless of whether it's a biology presentation, an AP Bio, or if you're talking about the Civil War in a history class. Giving a presentation and speaking skills, that's something you cultivate through every aspect of your life.
The other question, is this recorded? I don't know, like everything's recorded. We're an open book, but if you would like personalized, individualized help between the hours of 8 p.m. and 2 in the morning, which is when Milena has free time. And by the way, those midnight to 2 a.m. College essay edits worked. The student she worked with got into Columbia University, and the mother would follow up with me via text message at 6 a.m. So I just want you to know this is quite a 24-hour ordeal we've got ourselves into. But please keep that in mind. So these recordings are open. I know a lot of people don't do it. Oh, we're going to charge. It's going to be secret. No, if you want private, individual one-on-one, yes, there's a charge. We charge for that. Milena, one of the parents actually signed up for private SHSAT with you. So you are stuck with me after this webinar because you need to schedule 10 hours via Zoom. But Milena will be available. She'll be in person for part of the summer, right? She'll be able to come into Kweller Queens, and Milena potentially can, tutor in person or Zoom. So that's a yes. With that being said, we are recording. One of the mothers posted, my daughter took your Hunter course and got accepted. So I completely agree. It was immensely helpful. Thank you so much. It makes me very proud. We actually wrote some of those Hunter practice questions. I used to write them in the middle of the nights because I just needed to keep going. I think that's also important to speak about determination. You just have to keep going. The webinar, we're gonna wind down, so maybe like 5 more minutes, and I hear my children upstairs. Please give examples of skills you learned at 11, age 11, that you used when you were applying to colleges.
Well, so for the Hunter Test Prep course that I took at Queller, if you don't know, the Hunter test has an essay component. And so the prep course obviously goes into what elements are required in a good essay. And those are elements that are still true when you're applying not to Hunter, but to Ivy League schools or other top universities. Like an example I gave, having a good hook. That's something that's true for the
Yeah.
Hunter test and for your supplemental essays and your personal statement. So that's a skill that sticks with you.
Do you offer college advising? Yes, we offer college advising, college bossing around and telling you that you need to stay on the golden path, and we give you a lot of positive energy and reinforcement. If you sign up for college advising, I don't know if I want to use the word advising, college bossy lady telling you what to do. With that, it's a college team. I don't know. I don't know what to call it. But expert college help with positive reinforcements. There, that's a lot of words. What I want to tell you is, please, if you want to sign up for this service, do it now. Now is the heavenly time. Don't wait. We're not going to take anyone in September because there's no bandwidth to do it. And I have my hands full with SHSAT kids. If we're going to do college applications, we're going to do it now. The best service we offer is all in. The average student who does that premium service, which we put in on the flyer, so it's more of an unlimited, basically 15 applications start to finish, and we just keep going. This includes months of help with the college application. I want to stress, if you sign up, do it now, because in 11th grade, you have to do, I call them the brag sheets. Is that what Bronx Science calls it? Yes, right? These are brag sheets where you have to write about yourself. I think they're called something else at Hunter, but this is the time where the parents are submitting information. And this is the time where you're doing that also. So please keep that in mind. Um, Foreign language. Did you do 4 years of language, Milena?
Yes, I did. I took Latin my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Junior year, I ended with AP Latin. And then I knew that most schools wanted 4 years of foreign language. So for my senior year, I did AP Spanish literature because Bronx Science offered no more Latin courses.
For Common App, personal email, or school one, make your own, right? And create your own college email. You're going to get a lot of emails and solicitations. Oh, FYI, if it looks like a scam, it is. So just remember that new email is going to get a lot of information. Oh my gosh, 4 people want this recording. Everyone's getting the recording. We will email you the recording. How many APs did you take in high school?
I took 11 APs and one post AP.
And then, so at Kweller, right now we jump in straight into SAT prep. The question is about that. So we highly recommend from 10th grade. Milena did this from 9th grade, by the way. So we're recommending 10. Milena started Kweller Prep, PSAT, SAT prep. PSAT and SAT are very similar. This material, she began 9th grade. Milena's mother, I give your mom a lot of credit. She was really proactive. She was like, I am just going to figure it out and keep sending her to Kweller because this is the place where she's going to have amazing command of the English language and she's going to have all of this math. And your mom was really on top of you enrolling into Kweller. So I'm just saying, like, some things happen as a surprise, this not so much. Um, and just remember, if you go to the AP question, the Kweller website has information about how these things, are transferable in college credits. Milena, you're not leaving because I have to pair you with a parent privately. But what I want to do for the last 2-3 minutes, everyone, a few things we should take from this. Everyone needs to have a positive experience applying to college. Having a negative experience, how does that happen? You're applying late. You're applying at the deadlines. The word dead, not alive, dead. Do not apply when there's a deadline. So please keep that in mind. Doing everything last minute, early action, early decision, Halloween, because everything is due November 1 and you're doing this Halloween when you have like people asking for candy on your door. This is a horrible idea. So that's a big minus. If you do it, as I said, if you do decide to sign up for Kweller Prep's all in service, which is my favorite one because we don't really count the hours on it and we just want you to keep going until the end. And remember that you're in good hands with people who've gone through the system very well. What I do want to share with specialized high school, you're on a pathway. With a screened high school, no matter where you go, you're going up. The last thing I want to share, everyone, I want to address the haters. This is a very important thing. I don't give it enough credit. And I feel like lately, especially, we had almost 65 kids accepted into Hunter. We have over 20 kids on the wait list. Kweller Prep has really grown and it's very well known. And someone the other day was like, this woman just doesn't stop. Why is this a negative? So this is what I want to address. In your life, you will go up. You will move up. You are in the webinar right now at 8 o'clock at night and we're going overtime. In your life, you are moving up. You're holding that football. Milena, you are moving up. I'm moving up. I'm not done. I have a young family to raise. Just remember this. You need all the positive energy and the positive coaching. And you know what? If you don't get into a college, it's fine, but don't have a negative experience along the way. The other thing you should know, if this is in my personal life, in my professional life, in my academic life, you will hear no, you will hear negative, you will hear the worst of the worst comments. Oh, and the social media comments, I mean, really? Like, I'm just so mad, right? And I want to be the bigger person, but it makes me so angry. So keep this in mind. In your life, the higher you rise, jealousy will come. And I want to remind you of this. When you are applying to college and people say, oh, don't apply to Dartmouth. Why do you need that Macaulay honors? No one gets into Macaulay. Do you know that's like getting into Harvard? Like, what? You're going to apply early decision? Why? Just wait for everyone. The minute you open your mouth is like, no, 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 no. Just go like this. I want you to go like this. And quite frankly, my advice, stop telling people. Just apply to college. And if you decide to do this with Kweller, like, you don't need the whole world to know where you're applying. No one needs to see your list. No one needs to hear anything. I'm just reminding you. This is your special time. You are moving up in your life. And it is lonely at the top. It's like single digit acceptances to many schools and colleges. This is your special time. Do not let others steal your joy. It is joy in your life. You are applying to college. You've been in school since kindergarten, pre-K, 2 years old, early learning at 3, childhood. This is your moment applying to college. This is the pinnacle. This is the peak of all that hard work. I am sharing this with you wholeheartedly. This is one of the most special moments in your whole life. Do not let others steal your joy. Make it a positive family experience. If you go on a college tour, make it a fun experience. Who cares if you get in or don't get in? Have a good time along the process. Please remember that. And I hope that's a big takeaway. With that being said, Milena, thank you. And I'm happy to share that this talented young lady is going to be available for tutoring for the college applications. And I also supervise everything because, as many of you have figured out, I am very OCD and micromanage everything all the time. And I pick up the phone all the time. So I'm just reminding you that I like to micromanage. That's me. But just remember that we have a nice team effort. Let's say thank you to Milena. Everyone, let's go off mute. I'm going to go on the chat box. I'm going to take you off mute. And I really, really enjoy this moment where I'm going to ask everyone, we're going to count to 3. So I'm going to count to 3. Hold on one moment. This is very big. Okay. I am counting to 3. I'm not doing it yet. I'm just waiting for everyone to unmute. Okay. I am waiting for everyone to unmute. Milena, I am recording this moment. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
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 Thank you, Milena.
Gonna miss you.
Thank you.
Everyone, we just want to say thank you to every single. Oh, I put you on spotlight.
Thank
We
you.
want to say congratulations.
Congratulations.
18 years old, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
18. Do you believe it? 18 years old. Look at that. First child in the family. Look at this success and sharing. Don't forget, everyone. Not everyone shares. Okay. She shared her spreadsheets. She shared her Google Docs with you. You are the best. Please type thank you into the chat. This is such a special moment. I'm going to send your mom this recording.
Thank
I'm
you.
always going for the moms. No offense, dads, but like it's so funny how I do that. I'm like, I'm going to send this to mom. Okay. Everyone say thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Milena, we're so proud of you. We wish you good luck. You're going to be a world leader. You're going to create peace in this world. We're so proud of the good influence you are. Too often we hear negative news and negative press and negative everything, and you are a positive light in the world. We are so proud of you. Keep shining your light, giving other people hope that they are going to achieve greatness, and they're going to hear 100 no's and focus on that one yes. We are
Thank you,
so proud of
everybody.
you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Milena, don't go. I have to call you to schedule with a private for SHSCT. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yay. Don't leave. I'm calling you.
I'm not leaving.